F-O-R-T. And I did. It was a Roman fort which the Germans were keeping intact as a tourist attraction. And I used to teach Latin. I had never seen a Roman fort before except in a picture book. So this was a great, big surprise to me. And certainly fulfilled some yearning that I must have had. So I looked at the fort and went through it. And I really didn't know that Germany was had been overcome. The Germans, it wasn't Germany then. The Germans had been a part of the Roman Empire. I thought it stopped at France. But they were, at least around Koblenz. And so I just felt right at home near this Roman camp in my German background town. Well, the Romans went on to conquer England, you know, and they built the Great Wall, and they were pretty good occupants. At least they weren't cruel, but they were Roman rulers. Yes.
I think the wall was Hadrian's Wall.
Pardon me?
Hadrian's Wall.
Okay, this isn't class participation.
Hadrian's. Hadrian's Wall in England.
Was it Hadrian's Wall in England?
Yes, of course they go. I've been on it twice. Have you been there?
No, but I've come across it though in my readings and discoveries and.
So anyway, people came across the channel. The Anglo-Saxons had settled England. That's why it's Anglo, England. And they stayed there until 476 AD. By that time, the French had come in and other nationalities, but also particularly the West Saxons, and a lot of Danes too. Perhaps you remember the name Alfred the Great. Well, he introduced Christianity into heathen England. So, welcome to Christianity. And then Canute, C-A-N-U-T-E, who was from Denmark, was king of the island for 27 years, king of England. So you see, things get all mixed up, and isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
Most of our English history begins with William the Conqueror conquering the Anglo-Saxon kings, you know. And he did in the Battle of Hastings. And he was the first king of England. And we're still having kings of England, or queens, one or the other. So England dates from 1066, when he came in, to, well, God knows how long. But in any case, how many of you are from the European ancestors now? How many European?
Yeah. Really, yeah. One shape or form.
Yes, both English, French and German. There are a
Irish.
lot of outsiders. Where are you from? Who's from different parts? Where?
The Dohertys have Irish as well. The Dohertys have the Irish side as well.
Irish, yeah.
Swiss.
Irish. We can't hear it up here.
Irish.
Irish.
Where?
Ireland.
Ireland. How many are from Ireland? Well, the Germans never got that, folks. The World War.
What's it for the World War?
Any other interesting places? Well, there was the place called Czechoslovakia, back then where we are. But all of that was the Roman Empire. And so, heaven knows what kind of blood we have in us. And isn't it wonderful how well it mixes in a place like this? So let's all be good, solid Americans of foreign extraction, if you want to say it that. But anyway, looking ahead to a bright future. And I thank you all for coming, and God bless America.
God bless you.
That Auntie Bree typed on her very ancient typewriter. And I redid them on the computer so that it was all easy to read. And I ran off copies of a number of things that are up here. There's about 15 copies. If anybody doesn't get one and wants one, let me know. They're in my computer and I can just send it to you. I'll hold up what they are. First of all, she did a genealogy of the Krause and also the Westenberg side. So we have a family tree here, and it's really interesting because some of these names I've heard, but I didn't know the connection that we had to them. So some of them are stapled together, and if we run out of the staple one, just make sure you get a Krause and a Westenberg side.
Where's your family though?
Okay, the next thing is what Auntie Bree was talking about, this course that she took, about the origins of the European people, including the Germans. This was fascinating to me because I had no idea of where the ancient people came from. And it was a migration that gradually went across Europe. And being half Norwegian, we have something akin to the Celtic heritage. We're always interested in that. Girls do the Scottish dancing and stuff. And I think that maybe this explains where some of that came from, because those people, traveled all over. So take a look at the origins of the European people. That'll help you know. Then there were two things that Auntie Bree has written in the past. One of them is called Illuminating and Illuminated Events in the Life of Marie Mages. I think she read this at her 90th or 92nd birthday. I could not find a date.
I have it.
Yes, I have. But there was no date on it. Now, my mom used to make us date everything. Remember? She was one. I wish that it had been dated. Anyway, this is really interesting. Talks about Auntie Bree living in Port Washington. I think this is the one that talks about when yes, this is the one about being the junior prom queen when she was a sophomore, and how Auntie Clem had to go to bat with her mother so that her mom would allow Marie to cut her braids off so that as prom queen she would be up to date. This is just fascinating. And then this one is called Chronology Marie Krause Mages. There's some overlap between the two, but there's also new information in each one of these. So take a copy of both of them. This one also goes into detail about her family, her siblings, which includes mom and dad and their children, and about who Clem worked for and what happened when Uncle Ray was drafted into the Army. Kay was just being born, and he got a 3-month extension before he had a report for duty. And here, Auntie Bree is left with this new baby. She had moved back to Port Washington, and it gives you a real feel for some of the